It is your boy T with another Have You Seen That with T movie review, and today we are reviewing Evil Dead Rises. So your boy was completely petrified. I went and saw a 9:20 showing of Evil Dead Rises, meaning that by the time the movie previews had ended, it was about 10 o'clock. I swear these movies pack in about 15 previews now before a movie starts, but the movie started pretty late. So on the East Coast, it was probably midnight. So it would be technically a midnight showing of Evil Dead Rises on a Thursday night. And I will be the first one to admit, I was completely terrified at the beginning of this movie because I do not go see horror movies in the theater. It's just never been my thing, especially movies that I deem to be very creepy and horrifying. And I was actually sitting in the very front row because this movie was pretty packed for Thursday night, and there were very few tickets left by the time I purchased the ticket to Evil Dead Rises because I did not plan on going to see it. So I did go see it. I was in the front row. I was extremely close to the screen, but I will say I made it through, right? And I didn't have nightmares last night because I went and watched it last night. By the time you're viewing this will be Friday morning, Friday afternoon. I mean, I did see it Thursday night. But what a time it was watching this movie, right? So I did see the remake of Evil Dead. I've never seen any of the original Evil Dead movies, right? Very hokey, very 80s horror. I don't want to go back and watch them. I was too afraid to watch them in the early 80s when they did come out. I did want to see Army of the Dead, but then I saw a few clips of it and I said, oh, this is funny horror comedy, a comedy horror, and I did not feel inclined to watch it. I've always seen bits and pieces of it, and the bits and pieces I've seen were pretty funny. I just never had the inclination to sit down and actually watch those movies, which after watching this movie, maybe I'll go do. Who knows? If I do find the time, I'll watch all of the old original Evil Dead movies. But Evil Dead Rises takes place in, I think, LA, inside of an apartment building. And this is what I don't like about horror movies. When the movie starts off, there's an earthquake, and the kids, there are kids, three kids, two teenagers, one, I would say adolescent, toddler. She might have been 8 or 9 years old, who knows? But they're coming back from grabbing some pizza, and the earthquake happens. They're in their parking garage, and then there's a hole in the ground. Right? So after the earthquake, there's a hole in the ground. And of course, the oldest kid decides, hey, I want to go check out this hole in the ground. Why? Why? Why in God's name would you go into a hole in the ground after an earthquake, right? Not only is it a hole in the ground, but there could be aftershocks, right? And you could put yourself in further danger, right? So what if there's an aftershock and the hole closes up? So they go into the hole in the ground. Apparently, this apartment building used to be a bank. So there was a vault underground. And this kid goes into it. And then he finds the Book of the Dead, right? A book that it's like outlined with teeth. It's made of, it feels like leather, but it's actually made of human flesh. So no, how about no? Right? And not only is it a Book of the Dead, but there's some records, right? And this kid just so happened to be a DJ who still uses turntables, right? So let's we're not only suspending disbelief at this point, but it's just the coincidences of things, right? It just so happened like that this kid is a DJ. He finds these turntables, and I guess that's what I mean. He finds these records, and I guess that's why he took them because he is a DJ and he wants to listen to vinyl. So I have to listen to the first vinyl. These records were made in the 20s by some priest, I guess cataloging when they found the Book of the Dead. First record, very creepy. He plays it. He has to spin it forward in order to play it in real time. And then, shenanigans happen, right? So the second album releases the actual demon. He tries to stop it, but the album just continues to go on its own because it is a cursed album. It is a cursed book. He had opened the Book of the Dead. Why? Because his sister was helping him, and she got pricked by one of the shark's fangs or the teeth on the front of the book, and the blood from that prick opened the Book of the Dead. Once again, that's like strike number two, right? After two strikes, you probably would think you would stop with these records. You would stop with all of the shenanigans. But nope, nope, these kids kept going forward. This kid kept going forward, kept listening to the records. The demon was released and took possession of their mom. And every single actor in this movie did what they were supposed to do. The child actor, the teen actors, the adult actors, the neighbors, everyone portrayed their caricature of a person that they could portray as best that they could. And then calamity ensued. Like this demon took over and just wrecked shop. Right, going through the building, they were on a floor. The stairs gave way. There was an elevator. The elevator gave way. This is right after earthquake, so the elevator was all damaged. Everything was damaged after this earthquake, so they couldn't get down from the story. They were on the 10th story or the 12th story or something like that of this building. They didn't have fire escapes, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm from New York. Every building, almost every building has a fire escape or some way of getting out of there, except for some of those high rises. I get it, I guess. But man, there was no way to get out, right? So this demon just went through wreck shop, and the movie went along. It was scary, and what I really enjoyed about this movie was the limited amount of jump scares, right? I hate the music getting slow and then it kind of speeding up, and then out of nowhere there's a jump scare, or that infamous mirror scene where somebody's looking in the mirror and it's one of those folding mirrors where you open it, you open it, there's nobody behind it when it's closed, and you open it and then you close it again and there's a ghost behind you. I hate that scare more than anything, because one, it's been overdone in almost every horror movie. Two, it's just annoying, right? It's coming. And it doesn't scare you anymore because you know it's coming. But this movie just kept its eeriness to it, right? There was no rhyme or reason. There was no quick camera cuts to any jump scares. It was just a lot of blood, a lot of gore. And I'm not a big Evil Dead head. I enjoyed the Evil Dead remake because it was gory, because it was very ultra violent. And this movie was just all a bit the same, right? And the movie ended the way the movie began. And if you watch the movie, you'll know exactly what I mean. But it just was a really well-made horror movie that was self-contained. Right as I taped this, I think it still sits at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. I get it. It was a really serviceable horror movie, and maybe I'm just kind of over horror at this point. I've like, it's really not much that hasn't been done, but it was a really good movie. It wasn't a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination. It was scary. The atmosphere of the movie itself led to the creepiness of the movie. Being contained in a really small apartment made sense. Being contained in an apartment building made sense. The fact that they were stuck on one floor and more people didn't come to figure out what was going on didn't make any sense to me. But at the same time, it's kind of explained why at the beginning of the movie. So I guess you could say it made sense. This movie hopefully doesn't kick off like an Evil Dead every year type thing. I think that, the last Evil Dead remake was 10 years ago. I don't think you have to wait 10 years to make another movie like this. But at the same time, I don't think we need to have a new Evil Dead movie every year. I think this movie really, really was well made. I enjoyed it. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. But at the same time, it was pretty gruesome horror movie. It was more gore than it was scares, if that makes any sense. So if you want to go check out a good, gory, bloody good time, then definitely go check out Evil Dead. It's definitely worth your time. It's definitely a good movie if you're into horror. But yeah, that'll do it. I mean, it is definitely worth your money to be spent to go to a movie theater to check this movie out. So if you do have time this weekend, there's a big fight this weekend. If you got time in between the fights, before or after the Tank and Garcia fight, then definitely go check out Evil Dead Rises. Definitely worth your time. Until next time, it is your boy T. Or have you seen that with T? Like and subscribe the video. And that'll do it.